Welcome back to another episode of Estradanary Conversations. We have sort of an announcement. Not a big one, kind of a mini one. Well,
that's big for me.
It's big for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the past, we've had guests come on the show, and they've been fantastic and love all of our guests. But we have a permanent guest and now a co-host, my wife, Tiana. So welcome.
Hi. Thank you. I'm honored.
I was going to say something, but I'm going to hold back.
Like in our previous takes?
Yes.
I should be?
Yes.
I should be honored to be here.
No, you shouldn't be. So I'm honored to have you as a co-host.
Thank you.
And so we work together. We live together. Now we have a podcast together. So we just do everything.
Can't get enough of each other.
Yeah. So we talked about this, having you come on, and you brought up some pretty cool things that happened on the last podcast we did together. And you want to tell folks what kind of happened there?
Yeah, so we always watch your episodes, and some of them we watch multiple times. And I remember going back and watching the one that we did, and that was the highest viewed podcast that you had. And we were trying to figure out, like, why is that? Why, what was so special about that? And then I started getting, I got voicemails, text messages, emails. We were out on a couple dinners and people brought it up. Even my mom brought it up to me, that someone brought it up to her, that specific episode. And that kind of is what opened my eyes to, wow, there's a lot of different parts about that podcast that resonated differently with a lot of different people. And we just got messages of like, thank you for being vulnerable, or for talking about that piece, or saying the pieces out loud that people don't want to say. And so it made me realize there's kind of a need out there for just some authenticity and genuineness in a world full of fake and influencer and advertising and all the things. And so, and these people reaching out to me are not people I talk to on a regular basis. So, some people were like, I unfortunately just went through a divorce, and listening to your podcast made me realize there are some things that I would maybe do different next time, or could have done different then. And, reflecting on that. And a lot of women talk to me about just where I was physically, mentally with middle age. And we can get into that in a little bit. But yeah, it was just like, wow, a lot of people need more conversation, I guess. And if we're willing and able to do that, you and I talked and we're like, maybe we should. We don't know everything, but we have been married a long time and dating a long time, and we have 5 kids, and we've built a business. And I think we have a lot to share. And you and I are both of the mindset of, if you have it, share it.
Yeah, positive or negative.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, like you said, not like we have all the answers, but definitely we can share things that we've tried and maybe failed at, and maybe eliminate those for some folks out there. But we are kind of talking about, so we sort of have like these mini podcasts from time to time,
Yes.
whether driving in the car, sitting and watching TV during a commercial break. Yeah, we kind of aged ourselves right there.
Commercial break.
I know.
All right.
Hydration breaks now that the World
The
Cup's going on. So we have these little mini podcasts, and it's, sometimes they get heated.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, we call each other out, which we've given ourselves permission to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But where it comes from is love, right? We want to make each other better. We want our experiences to be better. We want our marriage to be better. And if we can share those experiences and help somebody out, then we're all for it. So,
well, I think it's been really important for you and I. We come from a background and a culture of not a lot of communication happened. There were just certain things you didn't talk about, and kids, sit over there. You're not a part of this conversation. And we just don't talk about those things. And so it was quite the shift for both of us to kind of, like you said, give each other permission to say the things that we had grown up being like, I could never say that. Like, I'd never say that to my mom, or I'd never say that to my uncle, or, friend. There were just, I don't know what it was about our generation, but growing up, it was like there was just a lot of stuff you didn't talk about, which at the time just was the way it was. But in retrospect, I'm like, I don't think everything needs to be off limits and not discussed and talked about. So we're just very conscious of, okay, tell me more. Let me hear that. And, think it through. Just very much conversation, because I think so many relationships, whether it be a marriage or, between children and parents, whatever it might be, clients that we have, it always comes down to a breakdown in communication when there's a problem.
Well, I was, yeah, I was brought up that way. There were certain things that were maybe off limits, but not so much. So I came from the mindset of why not? Like I would always try to challenge something. And why are those conversations off limits? Why don't we talk politics? Why don't we talk religion? Why don't we talk money? Mm-hmm. Those are all very important things in our lives, and nobody talks about them. That's I don't want to say it's stupid, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And that those are three big pillars in our lives that we should probably talk about more. And we don't, and they're still kind of off limits, although social media has kind of gotten a little bit better about that.
Well, I was going to say those are three really big pillars that I think in today's society, I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, because as a society, we have lost the ability to have respectful conversations with each other about those items. And when I see that it brings out the worst in somebody, I don't want to be the reason I brought the worst out in somebody. So I'm just not going to go there. But I think that there are some things that, as a husband, wife, mother, I talked about this a little bit in our last podcast, is you start to suppress some things, and then all of a sudden it catches up to you, like, oh, maybe I should be expressing this. Maybe when I was upset, I should have said something. And so that's more along the lines of like just keeping that communication open, so that one day you don't wake up and you're like just mad at the world for all these things that you never talked about, because that's what happens.
Yeah. Well, we certainly didn't talk about it before we got married. It's not like you go on these dates and you're like, well, how do you feel about money? Well, where do you feel politically?
Well, that's because we didn't have any.
Well, that was an easy one. Yeah, right. It's like,
I would love to have some. That was the conversation.
We should have said, if you had money, what would you do with it?
Even then I wouldn't know. Like, so dumb. We were 20. Like,
I know.
It's funny because we do have conversations about our kids and your frustrations sometime with the kids. I'm like,
sorry, buddy.
But they're 20 something. Do you know how stupid we were when we were 20? I'm not saying our kids are stupid, but you have to go through the process. You just can't make them understand. They have to figure it out on their own.
But I mean, that's the whole thing of, we talked a little bit about this when we were having that conversation of, how do we resonate with the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds and, early 40s now? How do we resonate with people with, that are younger than us? Mm-hmm. And how do we get those youngsters to understand and actually, absorb some of that knowledge or experience? How do we get them to grasp onto that? And how do we do that? We didn't.
I've learned just with our own kids that you can't tell them. I think sitting here having these conversations and showing people a different way to navigate through marriage, or navigate through building a business, or navigate through raising a family, and then sharing our experiences, because when we go back and share our experience of when we were first married or when the kids were really little, hearing all those stories, I'm hopeful that someone out there is going to be in that same space and be like, oh my gosh, that's where I am. Let me listen, so they can make their own kind of mistakes, but not the same mistakes that we've made. Like, that's what we tell our kids all the time. Go make your own mistakes, but I don't want you to make the same mistakes we did, because then what's the point?
Well, what's really frustrating about that, and I did it, and I still do this, is that I wish somebody would have told me these things, but then when they tell you, you don't listen anyway. Yeah. Right. So what are we doing? So that's so frustrating on
Well,
on my
you just
part.
try to, the motto in our house has always been, and in our marriage, is you just try to carry yourself the way you want people around you to experience you. We always go into, even if it's a listing appointment, whatever it is, like I want to go in there and hopefully I, in some way, made that person's day better, whether I work with them or not, or, the person at the grocery store, whatever it might be. Like wherever you go, just try to leave it better than when you got there. And I think that's just part of the mission of this is, if one person watches this and is like, you know what, I got something from that, then that makes us all work. And we talked about, honestly, if nobody watches this, I'm okay with that too, because for me, that episode was very therapeutic for me, and it launched a whole, like, from where I was mentally and physically and how I was feeling. What was that, 3-4 months ago? And then we had that, and to see all the people reach out after that made me, it built in a little bit of accountability for me, and like, okay, don't just talk the talk, right? You need to walk the walk. And so I've, changed my entire diet. I changed some of the medical stuff that I was doing. I started doing different exercises, all these things to try to make myself better. So again, if this has 0 viewers, I'm okay with that, because this is selfishly therapeutic for me and helping me get through probably some of the toughest times I've experienced yet.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're gonna at least get 1 viewer. Thanks, Mom. So,
and my
thanks
mom.
for yeah,
Thanks,
2
Mom
viewers.
and Mom.
Yeah, 2 views. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I was going to say, we talked about this because we did a trial podcast a few weeks ago. And we were just talking about what launched getting into this and why we were going to commit to both doing this. And it stemmed from one weekend. We were having a conversation on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning, and I don't want to say you got offended, but you got a little bit of offended.
Do I get offended?
You
Really?
You do, because
Really?
it bothered you for like 3 or 4 days.
It didn't really bother me. It just, we continued the conversation for 3 or 4 days.
In my book, that's bothered. But anyway, you asked if I thought that you were judgmental. And I said yes.
That's a cut.
So then
You said yes.
Yes. And so you were really taken aback. And I didn't mean it in the way you probably took it.
Which means, am I judgmental?
Well, because I prefaced it with, we are all judgmental. And you were like, no, we're not. And it turned into this whole conversation, which is then like, we're like, these are the kinds of things that these are the conversations that we have and talk through. So I think that was one of the reasons that led to kind of doing this together and doing it on a more frequent basis, because you were upset that I thought you were judgmental.
Do you still think that?
Well, we had a conversation because your definition was different than mine. And so these are the things, like when you hear something, it takes a lot of work and self-reflection to control your emotions in situations. And I think there's a huge lack of that right now in the world, to just stop for a minute and try to process what this person is saying and communicate back that this is what I heard you say. So that's what you did. You're like, okay, but what is your definition of judgment? And so I said it, and you're like, I don't see it that way. And so you felt like you're not judgmental because we have a completely different.
What was my definition?
I think we looked it up.
Yeah, we did. What was that, buddy?
Judgment was what it came down to is portraying yourself as better than somebody else for a certain reason, right?
Yes.
And so you took it on a very, very high level, whereas I took it as, we judge all the time. Like, how many times you've been to the grocery store and you're like, I can't believe that person wore that to the grocery store, or I can't believe that person's, front yard looks like that, or I can't believe. Everybody's guilty of that. So there's judgment on that level. But I think you took it to heart because in your mind, judgment is way up here. Like, it's a big word for you. And so we had conversations about just why there's such a huge difference in perspective.
Yeah. So the reason why I think I took it to that level was because um, being more faith based, coming from a religious upbringing and being labeled as judgmental, I had a focus of not being that way. So when I hear that I still might be or still am, I sort of took offense to it, but I wanted to understand, you know, yeah, first of all, what's your definition of judgmental? And maybe give me some examples of how I've been judgmental in the past. And maybe I could explain why I behave that way. So,
And I think it's just hard because when these instances happen in real life, we can't sit down and have an hour podcast conversation about them. And so it's hard to navigate that. We brought up there's some people in our close circle and in our family that would go to you and be like, why are you judging me? They say that all the time. Rube, stop judging me.
Our kids
Our
say
kids
that.
have said that. And so it was coming truly from like, what am I doing that's making people feel that way? And I think I told you, you know, you've always just had a very high standard. And that's hard to communicate to people. And you come from curiosity always. And so when people say, why are you judging me? Or Ruben is judging me, I see it differently because I'm the only one on earth who understands the work you put into everything you do is not without intention. You are very aware of what you want to say, how you want to say it, what you want to do. You have slip ups sometimes, but I know that when you're interacting with people, and especially in our close relationships, you are always, always coming from a place of love and understanding, but they don't know that whole backstory. They just see it as like, oh, you're attacking me for something that I did. And even more so, I find it, people get that feeling when you really draw out the things in them that maybe you don't like about yourself. And you want them so badly to not do those things because you hate those things so badly.
That is so true. Yeah. I mean, and the advice doesn't come unsolicited, I don't think. I don't
No,
just
you're not
like
just running
I don't
around
just
like
like
telling
throwing up
people.
on somebody being like,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is what you should be doing," instead of what you're doing.
Right.
It usually comes from somebody asking what my advice is, and then we go from there. But then I give my advice, and then it doesn't turn out well. So,
It's not always true. It's not always true.
well, I feel bad because we had, our poor little nephew come over. He dropping off a milkshake, and we get into this deep conversation. And you tell me about this. You're like, people don't want to go that deep sometimes, right?
Our poor little nephew. He's 15, by the way. You made him sound like he was 4.
But still, 15 is a young age to have those adult experiences in, that kind of advice. There's no way you can kind of comprehend that whole thing because even as an adult, I still struggle with that.
Okay, but going back to that conversation, our sweet little nephew just came to drop off a milkshake, and then they were getting ready to leave, and he asked to come back. He didn't want to go home. He wanted to come back and visit. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know very many 15-year-old boys who want to come back and visit with the adults. So again, going back to why we're doing this, I feel like there's some sort of underlying like want for some deeper conversation sometimes, maybe not all the time, like not on Mother's Day and things, but there's a time and a place. But the interesting thing about that conversation was he had brought Olivia something, and you guys were going on and having this really deep conversation. Olivia's just sitting there like, yeah, another conversation. These are the conversations. Like, it's just habit. It's habit for our kids. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they're just so used to, this is just how we live.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
It is interesting. And, I hate to have all that just being serious all the time. I don't even know what you call it. But
You were
This is
quite
just the way we live. This is
you were
who we
quite
are.
the conundrum, and we I tell you that all the time because there's
Is this
multiple
from
ways.
love?
Always from love.
'Cause
There's
I'm
but
not
there's multiple.
feeling loved right now.
Well, there's times where you even talk about like my brain literally battles itself. Like you've talked about that a lot of times, but you're sitting here and we're talking about the seriousness of you and everything has to go deep and everything's serious. But then I can look over there at that picture that I got you one year for, I don't know what that was for, your birthday, maybe?
Yeah.
Where we asked all of our closest people to describe you in one word. And hilarious and funny is up there like 20 times. So again, this is the conundrum of Ruben doesn't take anything serious, but Ruben takes everything so seriously. Like, how do you live like that in your head?
It's very difficult. It's fun though.
Is it
Well,
fun?
I think because because you can't really take things too seriously. Because really, what does it all mean at the end of the day? So
don't know.
I try to keep it as light as possible. Telling funny stories or funny analogies or exaggeration. So that, yeah, I definitely try to make it funny and light.
But
Or
serious
else
at the
we're
same
just going to
time.
be, but I mean, it doesn't really mean a whole lot at the end of the day.
I could see that. That was deep.
I think so. I don't know if you guys want to go that deep, but we definitely will go deep on these episodes.
We will. We'll go deep on a few things. I think we're just on this one, just getting used to co-hosting and getting used to the dialogue and things that we want to talk about. But I don't know how many times we've sat at our table or sat on the couches and all of us, along with our kids, were like, how the heck did we end up here talking about this? And so that piece of it is fun. Like, I want to talk about meaningful stuff and light stuff and funny stuff because there's just enough of the opposite right now. And
Well, what's missing out there is the human interaction.
yes.
You can't really say a lot of what you mean in a text. So like when you're responding to a post or sending a text message or a DM or whatever the heck you want to call it these days, you can't get through the emotion behind and the love behind a text because it's not meant to be that way.
Well, intent is lost for sure.
Yes. And it could be miscommunicated. Like you could read one text one way and somebody else reads the same text and they take a different meaning from it.
Well, the way the world just operates right now, especially we've talked about this a little bit about Olivia and even now Ariana and their generation, I feel sad because it's just the way they talk about things. Like, I'm upset because this person left me on red. And like, what the heck does that even mean? Well, they read my message, but they didn't reply. So either they're mad at me or they're this. And then it starts this whole like tornado of drama from one message that didn't get a response. Like the way that this generation is being brought up right now makes me very sad. There's some great things coming out of it, and there's some great kids out there, but there's also an opposite side of like scary, that there's no human interaction and that they're completely fine just being on a device and not experiencing outdoors and experiencing doing things with. I can't believe how excited I got the other day because Ariana went to Elitch's with a friend, like actually went to Elitch's with a friend. And I'm like, why am I so excited? I used to do this all the time because it's not done anymore. Kids just like, oh, I'll see you at school, or, oh, let's get on our, iPad and play Roblox or play whatever. And that's how and that just made me really sad.
Elitch's is an amusement park in Denver,
Oh.
just for those who aren't from the area.
For those
Yeah.
people watching outside
Worldwide.
of Colorado,
Worldwide.
our international viewers, that is.
Thank
So
you for
I
bringing me right back down to earth.
no, I agree with that in that there's no human connection anymore. And again, that's why we're like, let's just start the podcast again and start having these conversations because it did bring more connection into our lives.
So is there an argument out there that you don't need human interaction?
I think we are built to need human interaction. For me, I don't care what anybody says. And I get it. I'm not a people-y person. I am in the most people business there could possibly be for someone who's not very people-y. I don't know how I do it. But even the most secluded introvert person, I just think that our souls were made to connect with other human beings.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just brought up the question of, I'm sure there's some folks out there like, I don't need, I'm good with the device. I'm good with AI does that for me now. I can talk to AI and they can have a conversation back, and that's a little weird, but there's actually, they torment people by not having interaction. So in prisons, you get thrown in the hole, right? Solitary confinement. And that is a punishment, because even though you're around other prisoners, that's still interaction, human interaction, being social, things like that. So yeah, I agree with you. I think we do need to have that. I just don't know how we're in that kind of weird period where we're trying it one way without the human interaction and seeing how that goes. But I think we're starting to see evidence that it's not working. So we need to try to go back to somewhere in the middle.
I think there's still collateral damage from the COVID shutdowns and the lack of human interaction that came from that. I mean, you see it in students, and we see, even the kids' school has talked about the scores during that period of time are still impacting the kids, now 5-6 years later. And we talked about this just yesterday, actually, about how there was some good that came out of that period. For instance, it's way cool for takeout now and DoorDash and that kind of stuff. We were talking about how it probably has forever killed the commercial market, or at least severely damaged it, because
commercial real estate.
Yeah. Commercial real estate, because I was delivering an earnest money check yesterday, and every building I went into, because this particular title company had moved to multiple locations. So it's like following, oh, nope, oh, go over here, following all this stuff. And it was like a ghost town in 3 office buildings that at one point were busting at the seams.
Well, I was talking to somebody who lives in LA, and they said almost 60% of downtown LA is vacant. 60%. In Denver, it's 40%.
So you asked me why I thought that was, and I think, well, that is one of the good things that may have come out for. We learned how to adapt to be able to work from wherever, which we saw, a huge explosion in the real estate market, because people were like, oh, I can work from home. I need an office. I need this. I need that. Or people who just up and left, and they're like, I can work from anywhere. So they're just traveling the world. Some people out there who bought an RV, like sold all their stuff and bought an RV, and that's just what they do. And so I think that piece of it probably changed forever. I do think there's still a piece where people either want to go to a conference, or they get some sort of, remote space, or there's just always that one piece. And I think even if somebody's sitting at home on AI all day, or talking to ChatGPT, or have Claude going or whatever, and they feel like that's their companion, I feel like a vast majority of people still have at least 1 or 2 people that they have a relationship with to fulfill that human.
Yeah, it fills that void.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you can completely be on an island by yourself without going crazy. Well, watch Castaway. Look at Castaway, for instance.
He had Wilson.
He had volleyball he had to talk to. I think that's reality.
And what's so funny about that is I remember watching that movie for the first time, and I was like, that's not even weird. Like, it totally got it. Right. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Wilson. I cried when Wilson flew out into the ocean, a volleyball. Yeah. But that's why I'm saying, like, the way we're wired, and I think that's why we have so many challenges these days, because we're trying to rewire the way we were meant to be.
Well, and I think we always want to invest in people too.
Mm-hmm.
We want to invest emotionally. There's probably one more facet that you want to do. more emotional, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird concept to wrap your head around.
Well, and then when you just take it back to, the basis of everything that we do, you talked about it a little bit. It's just being faith based, and our faith is everything to us. And it is our duty and our responsibility to try to help others while we are here on this earth. And we talked about that a little bit over the weekend after church on Sunday. We're just talking about when you're struggling, because this has been a hard year for you and I, just kind of mentally. There's been a heavy mental load. We've been super busy with work, which I'm so grateful for. A lot happening within our family. So just a lot happening personally. There's a lot of personal growth going on with you and I right now, and almost trying to relearn who these new versions of us are, and being okay with that, and talking through that. So I remember after church on Sunday, we just looked at each other and we were like, I guess we just go out and keep blessing people, whoever we can. Just try to bless people with this, even if it's just a smile or a wave or something. That's at the core of everything. You should just wake up and say, who can I bless today?
Yeah, I'm always made fun of by my family because I'm always going and talking to strangers or having a conversation with somebody that I see in a restaurant or grocery store or whatever. And you guys make fun of me. But I'm okay with that because
Are you though? Because
yeah,
you bring it up
because
all the time.
I haven't stopped. So it obviously doesn't bother me that much. So I continue to do it.
I was going to say, since when do what we think?
True. Yeah.
When does that ever stop you?
But it still registers. That still registers. So I still keep score.
We're just used to it. The kids are still, there goes dad again.
Right.
Talking to a random.
A random. Yeah, I'm curious.
No, I know you were very curious about people.
Try to learn something from someone.
Do you learn something from someone?
Usually. I mean, yeah. What I usually learn is that person doesn't look like a talker, but when I get them talking or her, they don't stop. So, don't judge a book by its cover.
We've talked about that before because I don't know if many of you know, we've been doing real estate for, gosh, I feel like since I could walk. It's been so long. But we had a very large team at one time. I think we had 15 employees at one time during that time. Those are crazy. That feels like a whole other lifetime. But I remember you had an interview with one of the employees that, if I could still work with her to this day, I 100% would. I love her. But she sat down and was crying in the interview. And she was like, I've never cried like this in an interview. And I was like,
Was I doing the interview?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You're the one who told me the story. And I was like,
shoot. I better remember this.
But I was like, well, what did you ask her? You go deep with people and you're not afraid to do that. And yeah, you made her cry.
Well, we had a lot of interviews where people were crying.
That's what I'm saying.
Those, we had some amazing training through our real estate career. And that I can't take credit for those questions because I would have never thought of them. But going through the training, those were the questions that you needed to ask to really get to the core of the person, to know, what's the real version of the person that's going to be working with us. Because a lot of times you make that hire and you're like, you hire them and in the first 2 weeks, you're like, who the heck is this person? It's similar to dating, right? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to get to the core first. So we had to just keep peeling the onion. And then sometimes that onion's kind of rotten. So it gets pretty emotional. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I would do interviews. You would do interviews. I think Garrett would do interviews. And people didn't know how to react because we never once asked them about work experience or their degree, or we didn't ask them anything about the actual work because
Right?
but we have been firm believers in it didn't matter. Like if we found the right people to come on our team, we could teach them anything. We could teach them how to do what we do all day long. So that experience was not necessary. It was more important for us to be like, who are we in business with and who are we working with? That's what mattered. And so I think that's why those conversations happened. Because I don't even remember if we took resumes from people. It just, honestly, it didn't really matter.
Well, the only qualification was what kind of human you were.
Right.
And then we could figure out the rest.
Right.
So, well, those are good times.
But I just think that person was very taken aback, crying in an interview.
Yeah,
that was multiple times. I don't know what you did to her.
Multiple times. Yeah, I even had men crying. That's,
wow,
interesting. So,
wow.
Do men cry enough? I feel like I don't. I could cry right now.
It's very rare. It's very rare that you cry, but when you do cry, it's
Is it ugly cry?
Well, I don't watch you cry, but just the act of you crying kind of stops all of us in our tracks. Yeah. I mean, would you agree, buddy? If everybody's like, Dad's crying, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is serious.
I think any kind of man crying is like...
Oh, there's some men who cry very frequently.
Oh.
And that's okay, too.
I haven't met them.
But I don't think there's a right amount or a wrong amount. I just think that there needs to be more conversation around men just allowing themselves to be a little more vulnerable. I think that's something, going back to talking about you and I putting in some pretty deep work into ourselves, because your kids grow up, and I mean, we still have 2 at home, 3 are gone, but we're getting
they're still alive, but
no, we're getting to this line of like, oh, we've always been doing, needed, all of these things. And that's very minimal at this point. Like Ariana is pretty self-sufficient. I mean, she can make eggs, she can do the thing, so and if she doesn't, she has 4 siblings. She just goes and asks. So not that she doesn't need us, but we're in a space of like not being the sole person needed all the time. And I think that probably impacted you and I a little bit more than we thought. So then we've been having to look at ourselves and be like, ooh, some work, work on some stuff.
Well, it's kind of like when folks become empty nesters, and then they have the interaction of them,
Mm-hmm.
It changes things.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in that change a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, there's been some different, I think you would agree there's kind of a different version of ourselves now, which we talked a little bit about. Like, I am not the person that you married when we got married. And a lot of people would see that as a bad thing. And it's not. We've been probably 5, 6, 7, 8. We're probably on version 10 of ourselves. But as you get older, the core versions become much more raw and real. And I think it's been interesting to kind of learn to get to know each other again on a much, much, much deeper, this sounds contradictory, but a deeper, higher level is kind of where I feel like we are right now.
The word that comes to mind is sweeter.
Yes. But also allowing because we've always been in the survival mode of just fix it, do it, don't think about it, let's just make it through. Really being conscious of stepping back and saying, this is your thing. This is something that you're going through. I'm not going to pretend to try to come in and fix it and make it better. I'm going to stand here and let you do what you need to do and trust that if you need something from me, you'll ask. And I think that's kind of where we are right now with each other, which is different.
Yeah. But at the same time, I don't like we talked about this too, is, when you're suffering, we're both suffering. When I'm suffering, you're suffering as well. So I don't like you to suffer alone.
Mm-hmm.
So the communication needs to be better in that when you're feeling something, let me know so that I can support in any way that I can. And because I want to get you through that, whatever you're going through as fast as possible.
I
Because
think
I just hate that.
I think the challenge of this chapter is, and I think any of the women out there that are listening that are in their mid 40s, this word is thrown around all the time right now, especially the perimenopause, menopause, stage has been, it gets made fun of, but it's a serious thing. And I think part of the challenge that you and I have had is I don't even know how to fix how I'm feeling, or I don't even know why I feel the way if you were to ask me, what can I do to make it better? I don't know. And that's a true answer. And so I think that's the struggle of women being in this stage of their life is that you can't even communicate what it is you need or want or how to fix it because you can't make sense of it yourself. And I think that we get made fun of a lot. Like, that's just crazy. You're just saying that. You're just being dramatic. And I don't know how else to say it other than I literally feel some days like I'm standing in the corner outside of my body watching me go through my day. I don't even know who that person is walking through the day sometimes. And how do you communicate that to yourself, let alone somebody else, and then have somebody else fix it? So we've had really raw conversations about this is not personal. I don't even know what to do. But that is a new place to be in.
Yeah. I mean, if crazy is who we're dealing with, then let's do crazy together.
I don't know about the word crazy. I don't like that word. Okay.
Yeah.
But I understand what you were trying to say.
A Prince song came to mind.
But there are times too where you're just different. Like, we have called this the year of you giving zero
cares.
Mm-hmm. That's new.
Yes. My mother watches this show.
I know. But there's that's a newish version of you, of just because you've always been, I'm not saying you're not a peacemaker anymore, but you've always been like, nope, let's keep talking. There's got to be a way. We got to figure this out. And more so this year, you've been like, I'm out. Nope. Not going to do it.
I've just noticed that sometimes when that person is just not ready, we talked about, the gravity thing. It's like, okay, how do we know when you're just not going to get anywhere? Like if the person doesn't believe in gravity, then conversation over, mm-hmm. Right? So let's come back maybe at a different time and revisit this. But right now we're just it's not going to be fruitful for anybody. And we're just going to get upset. So why do it?
I think that's where you being judgmental is misinterpreted.
Oh, thank you.
Because sometimes when you say that, it could feel like you're telling the other person you're dumb, or you don't get it, or you're wrong.
I'm not open enough.
Or you're wrong. Yeah. And I think that's where it gets confused.
Well, just as a baseline, you got to have some truth to it, right? So it's an exploration into truth is where most conversations are for me.
But I think that's the problem with where we are right now, because it's who determines what's true and
it's your truth.
If you dig deep enough, you can make anything true at this point with AI and everything else. So that's the challenge of the world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Well, that's
another episode.
To be visited again.
I guess that's another episode.
Yes.
So I suggested that you just start every conversation with "This comes from love," and you hated that idea.
No, I didn't. No, I think it's a little awkward. Hello, sir. This comes from love. So I might get punched a little more often than. But
well, maybe not to strangers.
No, I'm just joking. But yes, people that we love and are close to us and care for. Yes. If I feel like this might be offensive to somebody, I may preface it with "This comes from love." But we've talked about before, it doesn't work with our kids. This comes from love, but here's something that's going to hurt. Mm-hmm. Not like physically, like a spanking or something, but
no, but Please don't spank our kids at their ages. Could you imagine?
They're a little old for that. Yeah.
Buddy, line up.
Where's my belt?
Wow.
Oh,
But I've learned that.
that's funny visual right now. Buddy over my knee. Oh my god.
Okay.
Anyway,
What
sorry.
I have learned, though, is I do think that they are listening. They just don't want to say it.
True.
And maybe they'll say it one day, but I doubt it. And that's okay. But watching them in their lives and watching them raise their families and watching them run their business, and they've listened.
Okay. That makes me feel good.
But I mean, do you blame them? Would you go out and be like, Mom, you were right?
True. Yeah. I need to tell my mom that she was right more often.
I've told my mom she was right.
Good for
I've
you.
had some good. Actually, my mom and I had a conversation the other day about how we are at the place that we were at because we've had to have some really, really hard, uncomfortable conversations throughout our lives because it's not always easy. It takes effort. But we've put in the effort. But I've told her, thank you. I've told her, I'm sorry. I've told her things that I felt needed to be discussed.
Things you want to hear?
Yeah.
From your kids?
Things that
Okay.
I think I will someday. And for the most part, our big kids tell us. Libby's pretty good. Or he's not.
She's 8. I forget she's 8. Like, she's an old 8.
You've been saying that so much this summer, and you're like, she's only 8. Which, by the way, you never said with any of the other kids. How come she gets to be just only 8?
Because we're expecting her to do so much more.
Well, because she asks for a lot.
Keep it up, Ari. Go for it. What else? What else are we going to talk about? I mean, we've covered a lot today.
We have.
And I don't want to cut it off short because I've been known to do that. It has been brought to my attention.
That you're listening because you've brought things to my attention as well, which I am trying to work on because in this whole conversation of you're judgmental,
yeah, it
you
was
told me, I don't know if you really meant this or if you were just mad that I called you judgmental.
I'm going to think of something.
And you're like, you cut people
You're
off.
ugly.
You told me.
Just kidding.
No, you told me I cut people off. So I'm really trying to work on that.
We're going to have to watch this and see if you cut me off.
I don't think maybe once. I don't think I did. Part of it is because I'm older and
Okay.
I tried to explain this to you. If I don't say it in my head, I can't go back to it. And that is rude. It is rude to cut people off, but I really wanted to not lose the thought I had because it happens all the time. And you'll be like, what were you going to say? And I don't know. I forgot.
Maybe it wasn't important.
Probably wasn't. That's an interesting habit to start. Is what I'm about to say really necessary?
Ooh.
That's a tough one. Do you ever,
I always battle with that.
when you're getting ready to open your mouth and you're like, oh, do I really need to say this? It's like the real life exercise of deleting your email or deleting your text when you were mad. Which, by the way, you've accidentally sent sometimes, which...
I have? Was it really accidental? No, I've actually deleted a lot of texts and emails recently.
I know you have.
I was just going off, and then it's just and then delete.
But in a real life moment, and you're then you're like, do I really need? What is me saying this? If I say this, does it help anything?
Well, I go back to what's the ultimate goal? Does this get us closer, or does this get us further away? And that's usually a pretty good filter, and that's why I delete a lot of my messages.
Well, and you're very, very good about it in business. Probably more so than I am, because
You'll get there. Just kidding.
Well, because when someone hires me to help them with their real estate needs, it is like they're like my mom or one of my kids or so. Like I become very
Okay, let's go through an exercise.
territorial
Will you?
with them.
Because
Okay.
this just happened recently. We got an offer, right?
Uh-huh.
And for whatever reason, this real estate agent offended you,
Yes.
and you presented the offer, and the seller got on board with what you're talking about. You ended up not getting the deal. So, do you feel like maybe that was not part of the goal? Like maybe that got you a little bit further away, or you feel like, you know what? That's the way it was meant to be, so I'm okay with it.
It's hard to answer because, and I'm not saying this is the right way to think about
No,
it,
and I'm not either. I'm not
but
saying.
I never feel bad about standing up or fighting for my clients.
But what does that mean? Because what's the ultimate
Well, I just
goal?
thought that what the other agent was doing was wrong.
So you understand what deal I'm talking about? Okay.
Yes. I thought
Okay.
I thought the other agent was wrong. And I feel like when you don't stand up for something that you feel is wrong, then you're just saying it's okay. And I don't like that.
But what's the
But how much do you overlook or sacrifice to get something done? That's the other side of the story.
Yeah, you got to weigh it, right?
Mhm.
You need a drink.
I do.
And I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think what I do is
You argue
sometimes,
with me sometimes.
sometimes I've gotten in the way of transactions by reacting emotionally. And when I look back on it, that wasn't the right move. But sometimes it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to know if, in retrospect, do you feel like it was the right move, or maybe you would have handled it differently?
I don't think I would have handled it differently.
Okay. Great.
But I think the nice thing about us doing everything together is all of this transcends into all the different areas of our lives. So I now get to just vent to you and go off on you
Feels
instead
great.
of the other agents. Because if I were to go off on all the agents that upset me on a daily basis, that'd be all I do.
Same.
That's a whole other podcast talking about how awful our industry has gotten.
Yes. I do think the real estate exam needs to be a lot harder.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, I think our barrier to entry is way too low. But that's another subject.
Yes.
So,
Well, I'm excited to approach all of these subjects with you, along with others. And oh, by the way, I want this to be interactive. So if you watch this and you're like, you know what, I've been dying to ask you guys, because there are some things that we've gotten out of dinners and lunches that people did want to know. Let us know, and we'll add it to our list of things to talk about.
yeah, I don't necessarily want an agenda or an outline. I mean, we do have to be somewhat organized so we're not all willy-nilly. But yeah, put the questions in the comments. We'll address it and see where it goes.
Yeah, ask us anything.
Well, not anything.
Okay, maybe not anything, but I'm excited. Thank you for bringing me in to do this with you.
Cool. Likewise.
See you next time.
Okay. Later.